Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I head out for a walk and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, it's a lovely day, and that feels like a lovely time to talk about some games I've tried for the first time recently. That's right, it's time for another Board Game Espresso triple shot. For those of you new to the podcast, the Board Game Espresso Triple Shot is an episode where I do 3 mini reviews of 3 games I've tried for the first time recently. So it's not full reviews. I haven't played these games enough to confidently tell you anything about them, but they are a good place to start for understanding what I think of them and getting a sense of how the games play. So in that regard, today I'm going to talk about 3 games I've tried recently, and I often we'll pick one that I dusted off to talk about as well, and I'll be doing that too. So to start with, this is the game that was on the top of my stack last month, and I did not get it played, but I am happy to report that I got it played today. That is Porta Nigra. Porta Nigra is a game from Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer. I talked about it a little bit in the Kramer and Kiesling full episode that I did the other week, but I'm going to talk about it a little more now in more detail. This game was published by Stronghold Games in 2015, which I don't understand how it was published in 2015 because I didn't feel like I was all that deep in the hobby yet, but I remember being just bombarded with discussions of this game, so confusing. Whew, the cicadas are loud today. In Porta Nigra, you play some sort of Roman organizer who's helping to build a famous Roman city and set it up for success, I guess, in the Roman Empire. The game has a relatively simple mechanism. Essentially, it is a game where you're helping to build the city, and you do that by buying bricks, spending those bricks to build towers, and then scoring based on where you built those towers. The game has a variety of different features that score, and part of what makes the game interesting is it's an area control game, so you're trying to gain majorities in different areas, but each area scores a little bit different way. So paying attention to how to score in those different areas is a crucial part of, making the game work. The gameplay mechanism is really interesting. Everybody gets an identical deck of cards. If you're playing in a 2-player game, you're going to go through that deck of cards twice. In a 3 or 4-player game, you're going to go through the deck of cards twice. In a 2-player game, you'll go through it 3 times. And the cards have like 3 or 4 actions on them. And as a player, so they'll have like 3 or 4 different actions depicted on the card of like 5 or 6 different actions that are available in the game. Then at the bottom of the card is a little picture of a torch. And generally the way it works is if the card has 3 actions on the card, there are 2 torches at the bottom of the card. If there are 4 actions available on the card, there are 3 torches. So you get to do most of the card, but not all of it. And then what you do is you set the card down in front of you, and then you have these little action discs, and you play them onto the card, and when you cover up an action, then you do that action. And the actions are things like buying bricks, spending bricks to build things, getting money. Those are the 3 main actions. There's a couple others as well. What makes the game, the couple things that make the game really have interesting choices are deciding which areas you want to fight for control of. It is an area control game, so, scrambling for that control is interesting. Deciding how much money you want to spend moving around, trying to get efficiency in movement, because one of the challenging parts of the game is you can only do stuff in the quadrant of the board that you're in, and if you want to move, you have to move clockwise around the board, and you have to pay 1 coin for each step you take in that movement. So there's a really frustrating and fascinating thing where you're trying to figure out how you're going to move and where to maximize efficiency, particularly given the limited number of turns. Now, movement isn't one of those actions. You can always move right before you take an action, but you still have to pay. And then the third thing that is equally interesting about the movement and the different choices is that the bricks you're buying, the game has a really clever way of managing its supplies, its components. The bricks that you're buying are each designated as part of a color. And the way it works is that the bricks themselves are all gray, and when you buy them, they are sitting in one of 5 colored depots. They've got red, blue, black, yellow, and white. And when you buy the brick, it is the color that it is in the depot, and then you take the brick and you put it in your tableau in your storage space for that color brick. So you only have one, they only had to manufacture one color of brick. The bricks themselves just maintain their color by where you put them. So that's a really clever bit of game mechanism. When you're building your little towers to gain your area majorities, each majority works in a different way, and I'm not going to talk about all of those, but you also get this thing whenever you build. If you build matching a certain pattern, then you can take these bonus cards, and that's probably where the true efficiency and true skill lies, is acquiring these bonus cards while you're also winning out on majorities. It was really good. I liked it a lot. Looking forward to playing it some more. It's definitely staying in the collection. There's a reason it's highly rated. So that's Porta Nigra from Kramer and Kiesling and Stronghold Games. The next game I want to talk about was just published last year. It's called Faraway. The designers are Johannes Guppi and Corentin Lebrat, and it's published by Catch Up Games. That's not a publisher, and those are not designers that I know at all. Both designers have games to their credit, but I have played. Okay, so Corentin Lebrat is credited with helping design Draftosaurus and Trek 12 Himalayas, both games I have played, and so I will say I'm familiar with their work. Faraway is a really interesting, I don't know what you'd call it, path-making game involving drafting cards. It's a drafting game first. There's a market of cards. In each round, you're going to play a card. All the cards have numbers between like 1 and 70 on them. You're going to play the card, and then you're going to draft in the order of lowest to highest number that you played. So if you played a low-numbered card, you get to draft first from the market. If you played a high-number card, you're drafting last. Then what you do when you draft is you take one of 5 cards from the market. I don't know if it's always 5 or if it's just, or I think it was 4 cards from the market when we played. I don't know if you're playing with a 3-player game or like a 2-player game, if there would be 3 cards in the market. I don't know exactly how that works, but you're taking a card from the market and you have a hand of like 2 or 3 cards. I think 3. Then if the card you just played was a higher number than the card you played in the last round, then you also get to take a shrine, which is like a smaller card that gives you something as well. Okay, so Brendan, why are you taking these cards and what are you trying to do? You're sort of planning a journey with these cards, and the bonus cards that you take will help with the journey. So here's the cool part. Each card has some resources on it, sometimes, a scoring condition on it, sometimes, and that number value. The number value is not anything at the end of the game. The cards themselves, the resources they give you are useful once they're revealed, and the scoring condition happens when the card is revealed. So here's the tricky part, the gimmick, and I'll see if I can explain this without sort of showing. So you're gonna play 8 cards. You're laying them out in a row, 1 through 8. As you go, you're playing them from 1 to 8, and each time you play a number that's higher than the previous number, you get a bonus card. So, if you go 1, 25, 45, 60, and then the next card you play is 10, then you don't get a bonus between 60 and 10, but you did get a bonus card between the others. So everybody plays till you have 8 cards in the display. Once everyone has 8, you turn them all face down. Then, starting with the last card you played, you reveal and score the cards one at a time. And what's interesting is the cards require that you have resources in play, and the resources are on the cards and on the bonus cards. So like, for example, let's say you have a card that will score 1 point for every bull's head icon that you have in play. Great. But in order to score that card, you have to have 2 pineapples in play. The game doesn't call them pineapples, but they look like pineapples. So if your card with the bull's head scoring on it is your 8th card, when you flip it up, it's only going to score for itself and the cards in your bonus tableau. And it'll only score if you have those pineapples showing. Then you flip up card 7, and you assess the tableau again for card 7 to figure out whether it scores. Card 6, card 5, and so on. So there's this interesting thing where when you put a card down, you're planning that the display that you take after the card you put down will be able to support the win condition or the scoring condition of the card that you're playing. Because you don't score it if it isn't showing when the card is flipped face up, and the card is flipped face up in backwards drafting order. I hope that explained it, because if it didn't, I can't explain it better. That's the best I'm going to do. So hopefully that did it. So the way that's going to work is you draw all 8 cards and you score. We had a lot of fun. The game was actually relatively close, but a really interesting game. Now, I thought it was fun. It definitely would go on the category of I will happily play it anytime somebody brings it out. I don't think I liked it enough to seek it out myself, but it definitely would go on the I'd buy it if I found it cheap category. And then cheap even like $5 to $10 range rather than the only at Goodwill kind of purchase. It's really interesting. It's probably the kind of game that you get much better at once you've played a few times. And if I didn't have a big collection, I definitely would be considering getting this. But just with the number of games I have, I can't see this making a huge splash in the games that we choose to play. But I had a good time with it. That's Faraway. So I did get a chance to dust off one game recently, and that game was Photosynthesis. Was released in 2017, designed by Sabrina Miramon and published by, designed by Hjalmar Hawk and with art by Sabrina Miramon, published by Blue Orange in the United States, along with other companies elsewhere. Photosynthesis is a beautiful looking game. It's really nice to look at, to manipulate the pieces. You get these really cool looking cardboard trees that represent your share of the forest. Each person is a different species of tree, and it's a lot of fun to look at the game. It is a very mean game, and it's a game that sort of forces you to be mean, which isn't my favorite model. The idea that if you are playing well, you end up definitely being mean to other players whether you want to or not. And I find that a little frustrating because I don't generally like to be mean, but also that this is one of those games where a simple mistake can really just wreck you in terms of gameplay. I have played Photosynthesis. This is my 4th time now. I'm mentioning it on the pod because I dusted it off. It had been a year and a month or so. And as I look, that's about the time between each of my plays. And I feel like maybe that's about the time that it takes me to forget how much I dislike this game. I can see that it is a game of tactics and strategy that really rewards thoughtful play. Something about the thoughtful play that it demands does not click with the kind of thoughtful play that does not fit with the kind of thoughtful play that I can achieve. So there's a really strong disconnect there that makes it not fun. And then on top of that, I do really badly at it. So I don't have fun and I do badly. The game forces me to be mean. I don't know why I keep playing it. Maybe this will be my lesson learned. Next time I see someone setting up, I'll be like, that game's not for me. But until then, it's probably in a year and a month or a little more than that, you'll hear me talking about Photosynthesis again, and I'll say, why haven't I learned yet? I'm like Charlie Brown with the football. It's a pretty looking game. So I'm like, ooh, that game looks pretty. I want to play it. And instead I should say, maybe I won't play it. It's not for me. So that's Photosynthesis from Blue Orange Games. I didn't even explain how you play. In the game, you're putting trees into the forest, and you gain basically currency, which is energy harvested by the sun, in order to grow more trees, plant more trees, increase the size of the trees you've planted. But the thing is, the trees block each other's light. So if your tree is next to a tree of equal or larger size, your tree doesn't get any light when the sun is pointing at you. Now the sun rotates around the board, so different trees get light in different stages, but ultimately I find it really frustrating. So, all right, that's enough of Photosynthesis. Lots of people like it. It's not for me. All right, the last game I want to talk about today is another new game I tried, and this is Polter. Polter was designed by Paul Schultz and published by Oink Games with art by Rai Komatsuki and Jun Sasaki in 2023. It fits in the standard Oink Games line, meaning it's one of those like very small box games which look really amusing, are cute, and usually are fun to play. Now I find that Oink games tend to be relatively simple affairs, particularly because they come in a small box, and they're relatively easy to play, but they also usually turn on a really interesting gimmick. In Polter, the idea is everybody gets 5 weird shapes. They're all relatively small, and you get the game comes with a little bag full of bells, these tiny metal bells. So you get these 5 weird shapes, like one is a ring, one is a little yellow square, one is a red cube. Like they're all slightly different. They're all really small though. Think about the size of like a meeple. and you put them all in one hand. And then somebody flips a card at the beginning. It's random. After that, it's whoever won the last turn. You're going to flip over a card, and you reveal on the card there are pictures of some of the 5 components. Not all of them, some of them. Between 2, I don't think, no, there were some cards that had 1, up to 4. And what you have to do is, using only the hand that the components are in, you have to drop the components depicted on the card. So if it's a ring and a red cube, you have to drop the ring and the red cube, but you have to hold on to the other components. Once you have dropped those, then with your other hand, or with the hand holding stuff, you grab this white ghost, which is the Polter part, I guess, to claim the round. So you could have multiple people who successfully drop the things kind of simultaneously. Then it's the first person to grab the ghost that ends up being the winner. So you grab the ghost, you're the first person to grab the ghost, you win the round. When you win the round, then you take one of the little metal bells and you add that metal bell to your handful of items. Then you're gonna put both hands together and shake up the items, and then kind of put them all into one hand and close it. Then, and remember your bell, if you won the bell, it's included in there. Then whoever it is that won the bell is going to flip over the next card, and then everybody goes again. But now, if you have a bell in your hand, you have to try not only to drop the right things, but you also have to hold on to the bell. And the bells are small and round, really easy to drop. If you drop the bell, you lose it. You don't get to pick it back up. All the other items that you drop, you get to pick up. If you drop the wrong thing, you pick up everything you've dropped and start over. But if you drop a bell, the bell is gone back to the score thing, no matter what. If you're playing, we did have a rule, like if you're going to shake your hand up and the bell falls out, and we're in between rounds, that's okay, it doesn't count. It's only during the round that you have to worry about dropping the bell. So Drill Polter is fun and relatively easy to play. An interesting dexterity game if that's your sort of thing. Now the challenge, of course, is that it is also a dexterity game that you play with one hand. So it's very limited for people with mobility or dexterity issues, but that's going to be true of any dexterity game. So what games have you tried recently? I'd love to hear over on Board Game Geek and Guild 3269. Or you can send me a message, Wombat929 on Board Game Geek is my username. You can send me an email, brendan@rattleboxgames.com. I thank you for joining me today, and I hope your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.